everyone, welcome back to my studio. Hi everyone, welcome back to my studio. चलिए शुरू करते हैं आज का टॉपिक दी lost spring story of the stolen childhood. ठीक है, चलिए पहली स्टोरी क्या है. Sometime I find a rupee in the garbage. Why do you do this? I asked Saheb, whom I encountered every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. Saheb Saab left his home long ago, said amidst the green fields of Dhaka. His home is not even a distant memory. There were many storms that swept away their field and homes. His mother tells him that's why they left, looking for gold in the big cities where he now lives. Scrounging मतलब होता है searching for. Amidst मतलब in the middle of. Every morning the writer sees a young rat picker boy who visit the garbage dump near her house and searches for gold in it. The writer says that he searches for gold ironically because although the garbage dump is full of useless thrown away things, still he shuffles it so minutely as if he will get something as precious as gold from it. The boy name is Sahab. His home is in Dhaka and was Dhaka बांग्लादेश में ठीक है was in the middle of the lush and उसका home कहाँ पे था middle of the lush green fields. They had left it many years ago and he does not remember it anymore. His mother had told him that there were many storms which destroyed their home and field. So they left home and shifted to cities in search of gold. The writer again says, looking for gold in the big city. Gold here refers to something precious which was not available in their hometown. Things which things like shoes, money, bag, etc. for children and food, clothing, shelter as means of survival for their parents. The boy searches for such precious things in the garbage dumps. One day, the writer questions Sahab and asks him the reason for shuffling through the garbage. I have nothing else to do, he mutters, looking away. Go through, go to school, I say gallantly, re- realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. If I start a school, will you come? I asked half jokingly. Mutters मतलब होता है to speak in low voice. Glibly मतलब होता है speaking or soft spoken in a confident way but without careful thought or honesty. Hollow मतलब होता है meaningless. बिना सोच के ही बोल देना. ठीक है. Confident way में बोला पर बिना सोच के बोल देना. Shahab replies to the writer was nothing else that he was nothing else to do other than rag picking. That he has nothing else to do. उसके अलावा रैग पिकिंग के अलावा उसके पास और कोई काम ही नहीं है कचरा उठाने के अलावा. ठीक है. The writer suggests that he should go to school. She realizes that her advice is meaningless for the poor boy. He replies that there is no school in his area, in his locality, where he lives. He also assures her that he will go to school when one is built near his house. वो राइटर को श्योर करता है बताता है कि अगर मेरे आसपास की लोकेलिटी में अगर स्कूल बन जाता है तो मैं जरूर जाऊंगा स्कूल में. He also assures that he will go to schools when one is built near his house. The writer asks him jokingly that if she opened a school, would he attend it? राइटर ने मजाक में ही पूछा कि अगर वो एक स्कूल खोलती है तो क्या शाहब तुम अटेंड करोगे उसे. थर्ड पैरा में yes he says smiling broadly. A few days later I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? It takes longer to build a school. I say embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. But promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. Embarrassed मतलब feeling ashamed. Abound मतलब exist in large numbers. Bleak मतलब empty. So Sharp says that he would join the writing school, and after a few days, he runs up to her to ask whether the school is ready. राइटर के पास जाता है और पूछता है क्या आपका स्कूल बन चुका है. The writer replied that it takes a lot of time to build a school. She felt ashamed at making a false promise. वो embarrassed feel करती है कि उसने एक झूठा प्रॉमिस रख दिया शार्प के सामने. She had said this as a joke and had never intended to open a school. उसे एक जोक के तेरा ऐसे कहा था और उसका कोई इंटीमेशन नहीं था या फिर कोई इंटेंट नहीं थी कि वो स्कूल ही खोलेगी, वो स्कूल खोलेगी. सो शी फेल्ट ashamed of herself. Shahab was not hurt because he was used to such false promises as they existed in large number in his empty world. शाहब को उतना बुरा नहीं लगा क्योंकि वो यूज टू हो गया था ऐसे झूठे वादों से. He was surrounded by such false promises made by everyone around him. His world was empty as no promise made to Shahab was ever fulfilled. उसका वर्ल्ड पूरा एम्प्टी था, पूरा खोखला था, पूरा हॉलो था, बिकॉज कोई भी प्रॉमिस उससे कोई याद नहीं करता, वो कभी भी पूरा नहीं होता था. So after months of knowing him, I asked him his name, Shahab A. Alam. He announces. He does not know what it means. If he knew it meaning, if he knew it meaning Lord of Universe, he would have a hard time believing it. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the street with his friend, an army of barefoot boys who appeared like morning birds and disappeared at noon. Over the months, I have come to recognize each of them. So he would have a hard time believing it. का मतलब होता है, it would be difficult for him to believe that his name meant Lord of Universe. Barefoot मतलब wearing nothing in feet, without shoes. ठीक है. The writer had known Shahab for a few months. When she asked his name, he replied as if he was making an announcement that his name is Shahab E. Alam. The writer thought that the boy did not know the meaning of his name, and if he came to know that his name meant Lord of Universe, he would not be able to believe it. His name was opposite to his life. He went around the street with a group of friends. It was like an army of boys who did not wear any footwears. They appeared in morning like the morning birds and disappeared at noon. The writer could not recognize all of them as she had been seeing them for past few months. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I asked one. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf, he answered simply. The writer asked one of them, why was he not wearing any footwear? The boy simply replied his mother did not get them down from the shelf, as they were beyond his reach. He did not wear them. Even if she did, even if she did, he will throw them off. Adds another who is wearing shoes that do not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair all his life. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities, on village roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefooted is one explanation. I wondered if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. Shuffles also slides them over each other. Excuse मतलब a reason to justify a fault. Perpetual state of poverty मतलब never ending condition of being poor. Another boy who was wearing a different shoe in each foot said that even if his mother would have given him the footwear, he would have thrown it away. He meant that the boy was not wearing footwear because he did not want to wear one. The writer asked the second boy the reason for wearing a different shoe in each foot. He did not reply and shuffled his feet as if he tried to hide the shoe. A third boy spoke that he was eager to get a pair of shoes as he had never owned all his life. The writer takes the example of the shoes to highlight the condition of this boy. They searched the garbage dump looking around for suspicious. He further tells us that tells us that as she traveled across the country, she had seen many children barefooted in cities as well as in villages. They reasoned that they were barefooted not due to lack of money or due to lack of money to buy footwears, but being barefooted was a tradition for them. The writer wondered and concluded that the reason of it being a tradition was mere excuse to hide their fact that they were so poor that they could not afford footwear. I remember a story of a man from UDP Udupi once told me, as a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple, which was now drawn in an air of desolation. In the backward, where lived the new Christ. There were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived painting and threw his school box on a floating bed. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. Got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess has granted his prayer. Young boys like the son of the priest now wore shoes. But many others, like rack pickers in neighborhood, remain shoeless. बेसिकली इस पूरे स्टैंजा का मतलब अब हम लोग समझेंगे. डिसोलेशन मतलब होता है स्टेट ऑफ बीइंग एम्प्टी. पेंटिंग मतलब पैंटिंग मतलब होता है टेकिंग शॉर्ट एंड क्विक breaks. The writer narrates a story told to her by a man from Udupi. Udupi is a town in Karnataka. When he was a young boy, he would walk to school. On the way, he would cross a temple where his father worked as a priest. He would stop at the temple and pray to God to bless him with a pair of shoes. After 30 years, the writer visited the town and the temple. Now the place was nearly empty. The new Christ lived in the backyard of the temple. Plastic chairs in red and white color were kept there. A young boy came running. He was wearing grey colored school uniform, socks, and socks and shoes. He had a school bag hung on his shoulder. He threw it on the bed and ran away. The writer wanted to say that the financial position of the priest at the temple had improved over the last 30 years. Now he could afford shoes for his children. She was reminded of another boy who got a pair of shoes. He prayed to the goddess that he may never lose the shoe that he had got. The goddess had granted his prayer as the boy never lost his footwear. This shows us that the underprivileged value anything that they get because they have been longing for it. My acquaintance with the barefoot track pickers led me to Simapuri, a place of periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it. Metaphorically, those who live here are squatters who come from Bangladesh back in 1971. Sahab's family is among them. Simapuri was then a wilderness. It still is, but it is no longer empty and structure of mud with roofs of tin, tarpaulin, devoid of sewage, drainage, or running water, live 10,000 rag pickers. Acquaintance मतलब contact. Periphery मतलब outer area. Metaphorically मतलब symbolically. Squatters मतलब a person who unlawfully occupies an unhabitat building or unused land. Wilderness मतलब a wasteland. Tarpaulin मतलब heavy duty waterproof cloth. The writer describes the area where the rag picker boy lived, Simapuri, located on the outskirts of the Delhi, where very different, where on the outskirts of the Delhi was very different from the capital of the country. In 1971, when these rag pickers had migrated from Bangladesh, the area had been a wasteland. Simapuri was still a wasteland, but now it was not empty as almost 10,000 rag pickers lived there in a structure made of mud with roofs made of thin sheets of tin and plastic material called tarpaulin. There was no drainage or running water facility in Simapuri. They lived in unhygienic condition. It was a piece of waste land where the garbage of the city was collected. These people had started living there illegally. They lived, they have lived here for more than 30 years without an identity, without permits, but their ration cards that get their name on the voter list and enable them to buy grains. Food is more important for survival than an identity. If if at the end of the day we can feed our family and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields that gave us no grain. See a group of women in the tattered sari when I asked them why they let their beautiful land of grain, green field and rivers. So basically, permits, legal documents, tattered, मतलब torn. The Iraqis had been living illegally in Simapuri for the last 30 years. They have occupied the area without government permission or ownership. The politician of the area have provided them ration card and voter identity card. They got groceries for their family through these ration card, and in return they cast their votes in the favor of the politician who helped them. The writer asked a group of women who were wearing torn saris that why did they leave their home in Dhaka. They replied that if they were able to satisfy the hunger of their family and sleep well at night, they were happier to stay in Sinapuri rather than rather than their fields in Dhaka, which were ruined and gave them no food. Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents and that become their transit home. Children grow up in them, become partners in survival, and survival in Simapuri means ragpicking. Through the years, it has occupied the proportion of fine arts. Garbage to them is gold. It is their daily bread, a roof over their head, even if it is leaking roof. But for a child, it is even more. Transit homes मतलब होता है temporary home. These people traveled in search of food, and whenever they found it, they set up temporary homes and started living there. Their children kept on growing there, and gradually they also started helping their parents and seeking means of survival. For those who lived in Simapuri, the means of survival was rag picking. Rag picking. As they had been doing it for many years, they become trained at rag picking and did it well. For the rag pickers, the garbage was as precious as gold. Their family searched the garbage dumps and got things which they sold to fund their food. They gathered torn or damaged sheets which were used to cover the roof of their home. They did not cover them well, but they still provided them with some protection. For children, the garbage dump were more than for children, the garbage dump were more than a means of survival. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note, Sharp says, his eyes lighting, his eyes lighting up. When you can find a silver coin in a head of garbage, you don't stop scrolling, for there is a hope of finding more. It seems that for children, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. For the children, it is wrapped in wonders. For the elder, it means survival. Lightning up मतलब show joy and happiness. Shah was happy to say that sometime he found a rupee and even a 10 rupee note in the dump, as one often finds a silver coin in garbage dump. He kept on searching, hoping to find more. For children, the garbage dump was a mean of fulfilling their dreams, although partially, while for their parent it was mean of adding survival aiding survival by providing the basics food, clothing, and shelter. One winter morning, I see Shab standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. I like the game, he hums, content to watch it, standing behind the fence. I go inside when no one is around, he admits. The gatekeeper let me use the swing. Content मतलब satisfied. So one One winter morning, the writer saw Sahab standing by the fence of the club. He was watching a tennis game being played by the two young men. Shah liked the game but could not play it. He told the writer that he went inside the club and it would be closed. He was allowed to take swing by the guards there. Shah too is wearing tennis shoes that that looked strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. Someone gave them to me, he says, in a manner of an explanation. The fact that they are discarded shoes of some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them before because of a hole in one of them does not bother him. For one who has walked barefooted, even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. But the game he is watching so intensely is out of his reach. Discarded matlab thrown away, bother matlab ruined. The writer saw the Shahab was also wearing tennis shoes. They did not look appropriate with his dress, which was worn out and had faded. He told the writer in an attempt to justify himself that someone gave him shoes. She, however, figured out that he had got them from the garbage dump. They must have been thrown away by a boy from a rich family as he did not want to wear them anymore. Probably they had a hole or two in them due to which he did not want to wear them. On the contrary, Shah was not bothered by this fact and had no problem wearing them as he could not afford anything better than that. He walked barefoot and to wear a shoe even with a hole was like a dream for him. Although due to the garbage dump, Shah's dream of wearing shoes had been partially fulfilled, but his desire to play tennis would never be fulfilled. This morning, is Shah is on his way to milk booth. In his hand is a steel canister. I now work in a tea stall down the road, he says, pointing in the distance. I am paid 800 rupees and all my meals. Does he like the job? I ask his face. I see has lost the carefree look. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so light over his shoulder. The bag was his. The canister belongs to a man who owns the tea shop. Shahab is no longer his own master. One morning, the writer met Shahab, who was on his way to the milk booth. He was holding a steel container. He told her that he had got a job at nearby tea stall. He would earn money 800 rupees a month and get meals too. The writer asked him if he liked the job as she could see that he had lost the carefree look. As now Shahab was working for someone else and was carrying his master's container. He was burdened with responsibility earlier as a rack picker. He was burdened with responsibility. Earlier, as a rack picker, Shah would carry his own bag and was his own master. Now, he was no longer his own master. सो स्टोरी टू पे आने से पहले मैं चाहूँगा आप मेरे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर लीजिए और नेक्स्ट स्टोरी टू हम नेक्स्ट वीडियो में पढ़ेंगे तब तक के लिए बाय सी यू अगेन